Good evening. I would like to call this special meeting of the Board of Education to order. The next meeting of the Board of Education is on Wednesday, March 11th at 7 p.m. I'll start out with the chairperson's report. Good evening. The Board of Education's fiscal 27 budget was formally submitted to the Board of Finance last night at the Board of Finance meeting. We look forward to collaborating with the Board of Finance to provide any additional information needed during this next stage of the budget process. The Board of Finance public hearing will be held on Tuesday, March 10th, and the Board of Finance will vote on the Board of Education operating and capital budgets on Tuesday, April 7th. Tonight, we will begin the important work of discussing the framework and process for the development of the district's next five-year strategic plan from 2026 to 2031. We look forward to working with the administration to develop strategic plan goals for our district that will guide and shape our district's educational focus, priorities, and programming for the next 5 years. Thank you. We'll move on to public comment.
We have no members of the public.
Okay, Superintendent's report, Dr. Byrne.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the March 4th Board of Education meeting. Last night, Ms. Nelson presented the fiscal year 27 Board of Education budget to the Board of Finance. It was an excellent presentation, and I appreciate the positive feedback that was received from the members of the Board of Finance. Again, I'd like to thank our Board of Education for trusting the new budget process that I proposed last fall. It is clear to me that the changes that were made were very positive. I'd also like to recognize my colleagues here at the table and my administrative colleagues in the district for their excellent work in developing the fiscal year 27 budget. Congratulations to the Henley chess team for their third place finish earlier this month in the National Educational Chess Association tournament. Middlesex Middle School Quiz Bowl students continued their winning streak in Washington, D.C. this weekend with a perfect 10-0 for the A team and 8-2 for both the B and C teams. The next competition is at Middlesex Middle School on March 28th and a national competition in Orlando at the end of May. So good luck to the Quiz Bowl students. And congratulations to Darien High School seniors Catherine Massey, Maya Pajara, and Neve Segal for being selected as candidates for the United States Presidential Scholars Program. Finally, congratulations to the 39 Darien High School DECA members that qualified at the Connecticut DECA competition over the weekend to attend and compete in the International DECA competition in Atlanta, Georgia in April. And lastly, it has been an incredibly challenging winter for our custodial and facility staff. They've managed snow, ice, bitter cold, along with a salt shortage. That's a fairly new development. And I just want to publicly thank our custodians and our facility staff for all of their efforts, regardless of my terrible calls with weather this season. So I just, again, want to say thank you to the custodians and facility staff. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. We'll move on to student representative reports.
Yeah, we are well into the third quarter since we last met with you all. We only actually have a month left since the end of January, I believe. Our girls hockey won FCX earlier this week. And right now, as we speak, our boys hockey team is playing against New Canaan at the SHU at Sacred Heart University, playing for their FCX right now. So home for a big win there. We'll see.
Thank you.
I don't have much to add, but spring sports are starting later this month. There's also young composers coming up in late March, early April, and we're all excited for the PLC on Friday.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to presentation and discussion on strategic plan process for next 5-year strategic plan. Dr. Byrne.
Thank you. So I'd like to just take a short trip back in a time machine to the fall when, if you recall back in, I think it was in October, we did a presentation and suggested a very different kind of process for the budget development. This is that same kind of conversation. So there is not yet a new strategic plan developed. This is an idea of how we can really locally develop a strategic plan. It's a framework for a process that we believe will be helpful, will help us to get to a strategic plan that is based on the needs of the school district and our core mission as a school district, which is educating our children and preparing them for success beyond Darien. And so different from previous strategic plans. There's no intention to bring in an outside consultant to facilitate the process. What we'll walk you through tonight is a concept of streamlining the strategic plan itself into 4 key areas that we believe really sit well with the core mission of the school district. And it will be a full look at where we are with everything we do, looking at the current strategic plan and all that has been accomplished, and really identifying in a simple manner with lots of board feedback and community feedback, a way to make sure that the plan we develop is reflective of what we desire as a community in moving forward as a school system. So there have been lots of things that have come up in the course of conversations this year about looking at different things. This will require us revisiting everything that we do. It will require us revisiting our vision, our mission, the vision of the graduate, to make sure that all of those things are comprehensive and reflective of what we're trying to accomplish as a school system. So Dr. Fettigan and I are going to present a bit together tonight. And so as we think about our existing vision, mission, and the vision of the graduate, those are ideas and concepts that were developed. I believe it was around the same time as the last strategic plan. And as you do enter into a new strategic planning process, you look at all of those pieces and think about, did we meet the targets that we were intending to in the last strategic plan? What were the strengths? What were the things that went well? What were the areas that we missed on? And how can we improve? And how can this new strategic plan help us to become better, stronger as a system? So if you think about the budget process, and as we were working on the planning, we thought it was really important in looking back at the budget process, we identified these 10 operating standards that applied across all areas of our budget that we developed and that we presented to the community. And quite frankly, in reflecting and thinking about our next steps as a school district in terms of our strategic plan, this made so much sense to us that these operating standards should be the same operating standards that we are moving forward with and using as our guide as we develop this new strategic plan. And just in thinking about what the point is, you know, we want to make sure that we have an aligned system, that it reflects what where our community wants in the system, that there are clear goals, that there are measurable outcomes, and that we identify very clearly the framework that's going to make sure that we're aligning our resources and identifying those performance indicators so that we can determine whether or not we're being successful in what we do. It's a plan that, just like you have with the previous plan, we're monitoring it regularly. We should be adjusting it when we need to, and we should be making changes that are aligned with what we're trying to accomplish as a system. So just in terms of concept and framework, the previous strategic plan, you'll see on the left-hand side, and what we believe is important that must be included are goal areas, key focus areas, priorities and action steps, and key performance indicators. And as we think about that, to me, as we analyze the existing strategic plan, and we think about those operating standards and what our purpose as a school system is, we've identified 4 key areas that we are proposing are the structure of the work that we build out of this. So the notion that we are strengthening teaching and learning for student growth and well-being, we are focused on retention, recruitment, and advancement of our staff. We are enhancing community engagement and communication, and that we are ensuring that strategic fiscal planning and operational efficiency exists within our system. And every goal that we set and every action item that we identify should be directly connected to these 4 key areas.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. So as Dr. Byrne mentioned, the first thing that we need to do is really reflect, have a look back at the original strategic plan for 2021 to 2026. And as he indicated, there are 4 main goal areas now that we are striving for. And what we've tried to do here on this graphic is show how the existing 7 goals are translated into those 4 new goals. And what you'll notice really is the integration of some goals that we feel like should be connected more clearly. So the goal around the vision of the graduate really needs to be about strengthening teaching and learning and thinking about wellness of our students. We also need to think about the vision of the graduate when we think about retention, recruitment, and advancement, because we want to make sure that we have our educators demonstrating those same competencies, and we want to make sure that we're having cohesion as a staff. The third is pretty obvious as well, enhancing community engagement and communication and the connection that you would have to vision of the graduate there. And the same with fiscal planning and operational efficiency, if we look back to those operating standards. So the other goal that we really tried to integrate into these 4 consolidated goal areas is the goal around technology. So when you think about it, we want to think about how we're using technology as a tool for teaching and learning, not as a replacement for. And there are major shifts that happen. Technology changes quickly. We need to keep pace with that. Of course, we need to be thinking about technologies, and there were even some existing action steps in the current strategic plan around, for example, how are we using technology to create efficiencies for staff so that we can really be focusing on the work. The same thing with regard to community engagement. When we think about how we use technology, and this has been one of the focus areas of Dr. Byrne to communicate really directly and clearly with the staff. We're also thinking about, for example, EduPlanet and using that as a platform to be really transparent around the curriculum items. And we're thinking again about the data dashboard and how we can be more transparent with sharing with parents and families their children's progress in the school system. And of course, you know, we're thinking about technology as a big part of our budget process and financial operational efficiency.
I would like to just interject, because I think one of the key ideas behind what we're focused on here in this process is that it seems to me, in years of looking at strategic plans, that they become far more complicated and they lose sight of what they should be. They become more complicated. They separate things that should not be separated, where things that are naturally integrated within a system. And I'm not sure why that happens, but I think it overly complicates what school districts are trying to do and sometimes causes school districts to lose focus. So to me, the simplification, the clarity of what we're doing will make it an effective strategic plan to help us meet the needs of our kids. And I also think it's important that, because it's come up at the table here, we need to go back and look at the vision, the mission, the vision of the graduate. Are there things that are missing? And I know that one comment that has come up multiple times is, where does student outcomes come into that? And that's got to be a part of this process. As we begin it, we need to look at those areas and make sure that they are reflective of where we are as a system and our beliefs as a community. Sorry, Amy.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. So really the intent is greater clarity and greater focus, and thinking about having fewer goals and greater impact. And as Dr. Byrne mentioned, the key focus areas will still be a part of the plan moving forward, having very clean and clear action steps to guide the work, and then thinking about the metrics to think about how we're measuring our progress as we move along. We'll all be part of it. We also wanted to talk you through an actual revision process, and Dr. Byrne mentioned before, similar to how there was some shift in the budget process, we want to make sure that we're really socializing the work as we go and getting feedback and input from different stakeholder groups in our school system and in the community at large. The thing that we do, actually, we're starting already with cabinet drafting the strategic plan. We've made the shift from the 7 goals to the 4, and cabinet really thinking about those 4 goals and what might be some action steps, taking a look back at the current strategic plan and thinking about our progress toward those goals, and where we see things that we've done well and where we see that there's continued growth that we need to strive for. We're also going to be, of course, gathering input from teachers, curriculum leaders, administrators, the CDSP, of course, our PTOs in the schools, and absolutely, of course, you all at the board table. What we'll do is we'll take that feedback and synthesize it. we will clarify, we'll find out what's clear in the goals that we're setting and the action steps, what's not clear, maybe what's missing, are there things that we should defer? And then ultimately, the board would approve the plan, and that will drive the school improvement plans and department improvement plans. So we're striving for that coherence. We're really making sure that we're all focusing on those same goals. It'll be a collaborative and disciplined effort. It will also, I think, be a launch for our retreat in the summer, and it will certainly be a launch for our retreat with administrators in the summer when we gather in August. So a timeline for the work is, as I just indicated, this is just an actual visual for it. So what we're doing is really also trying to backwards map, where do we want to be for the start of the new school year for implementation? Where do we want to be for our July board discussion? Where do we need to be as we wrap up this school year and plan back to now? All right, and some guiding questions. We want to make sure that the focus groups that we hold with the different stakeholders are really driven by the kinds of information that we believe will help us really draft a strategic plan that will be robust and that will really be impactful and help us focus the work. We also want to make sure that the strategic plan reflects the values of the school system and the vision that the district has for our student learning outcomes, and thinking about the feasibility. A lot of times, I think I would also add to Dr. Burns' earlier comments, strategic plans can tend to be really lofty and something that's sitting on a shelf and not necessarily referenced and progress monitored. So what we want to do is make sure that there's focus and feasibility so that our progress monitoring can inform our work as we go, because a lot should and could happen over that 5-year period. It's a long walk between 26 and 31. And of course, then thinking about in 3 to 5 years and asking some of those questions. What do we think at the board table? What does our staff think? What do parents think? Would really be some great measures of success. What would we expect to see in here at the conclusion of that plan? I think Dr. Burns, some comments around our next steps.
So obviously our next steps, number one, is to hear some feedback from the board on this proposed process, is for us to actually get down to work. It's to get the plan drafted, go through our process of getting feedback, bring it back to the board for feedback, then revise again, bring it back to the board for approval, and then really socialize it, get it out to the community, align our school and departmental plans, and implement the priorities. And as we go, it's monitor it regularly, as the board has done and the administration has done with the current strategic plan, and make adjustments as possible. So that being said, love to hear questions, comments, thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you for the, sorry. Thank you for the presentation. I just have a couple quick points of feedback, and thank you for clarifying the process and how this would work. One first question that I have is, what is the approximate timing of when the board would receive some kind of a preliminary proposed draft that and I'm assuming that the board would give that first kind of review and input at the board table prior to getting the community input. Is that correct?
So March, April, we'd
Okay.
be bringing to the board. Yep.
So the board would get this first, and then it would be socialized with the different community groups
Yes.
afterward. Okay, so we would have a chance to give input as a board. Okay, Joanna?
I was wondering if you could tell us what the stakeholder feedback will look like. Is it just focus groups? Is there anything else? You listed the groups that you plan to talk to, but what is it going to look like for them?
So in our conversations, the focus groups, we thought, we heard a lot of positives about the focus groups that were held with the superintendent search and how that reached a broad range of folks across stakeholder groups in the community. And we think that could be a very helpful way of doing it.
And would you run that, or would you bring in someone to run that?
No, I honestly believe that the best way to develop a strategic plan is internally. So we figure out who would do that. It could be the two of us. It could be folks from inside our system. We do not need to bring someone in to do that piece.
Other comments?
Dennis.
In the stakeholders, are we, there's two group, 1.5 groups to me that maybe we should also ask is, input from students
Yeah,
as well as alumni.
we could definitely build those in.
Other questions? John?
Just, excuse me, in terms of feedback, I think you mentioned the focus groups were very, very helpful in the past processes that we did. When you really want to hear from parents, the best way to do that is to hear directly from parents versus going through intermediaries or kind of other organizations. So I think the more direct feedback we get, the better.
I think would it be safe to say when you're saying the superintendent search where we had basically focus groups that anyone could sign up to attend?
And they went to different
be-
schools, so you would not
Yeah.
need to sign up for these.
Or
We would
just
schedule
attend.
them out at the schools through the PTOs and get information to the communities, because people read the information that comes from the PTOs
Right,
and enlist them to help us recruit parents to join.
which I think is John's point. So that would be the direct opportunity for parents to give input and
Absolutely.
feedback. Great, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. My struggle is trying to wrap my head around. So we had the vision of the graduate, and that's kind of our product. That's what we're trying to build. And the strategic plan is for the administration, the teachers, the whole district, the system to produce that graduate.
Mhm.
So the strategic plan, am I understanding this correctly, is more for the mission essential tasks that the district must accomplish in order to produce the graduate that we have laid out. This is what we want a graduate to look like. Or the
You are
capabilities.
100% correct. So our goals as a system, the operational goals that we develop should be coming right out of the strategic plan. So the tasks, exactly what you're saying, the mission critical tasks, that should be coming from the strategic plan.
Because I think that bifurcation kind of helps. We're not talking right now about the vision of the graduate, what we want our product to, the capabilities we want our students to graduate with, what we want them to look like. This is the infrastructure to support.
Yes, and I love the idea of including students and alumni because they can tell us, are we on the right path?
I was
For
weak
them
in this
to-
area when I got to college or.
Yeah.
It's like the vehicle for our work.
Dennis?
So to Bill's point, what I'm struggling with is what is the right process to do this? So the way I would think you'd want to do this is first to revise or review or the vision of the graduate and the mission, and then that becomes your lighthouse, and then you build your infrastructure from there. But I don't see that on this plan. I see we developing a plan, and then we may revise the.
No, it's as I maybe I wasn't clear enough. It's the first step is for us to look at the mission, the vision of the graduate to be sure that we are on the right path.
Okay, sorry, maybe I
No,
misinterpreted that.
because I know that one of the key point has come up at the table multiple times with the vision of the graduate is, are student outcomes missing from the vision of the grad? I think you've said it, Greg said it, a number of folks have said that. And we have said that we have to have a conversation about that and reflect upon that. And so, yes, that's step one.
Okay,
I agree with that. Thank you, Dennis. That's a good way to, yeah.
So the timing again, still for that then would be.
Yeah,
March,
I think,
April.
listen, it's a
March.
very aggressive timetable, but we've been pretty good about achieving things when we give ourselves an aggressive timetable. But, obviously,
Right,
this is a proposal, so it could shift a little bit. We're also a week later presenting this than we originally intended because of weather. So, we'll certainly keep you posted. If we think it's going to take a little longer, we'll bring that back to the board as well.
okay, and the intent then, again, looking at the vision, mission and vision of the graduate, I'm assuming then you're saying that you would come forward with a proposal that we would then have a discussion about and review, correct?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Are there other questions? Katie?
I don't want to be too granular, but considering that it is a quick timeline with potentially a lot of input together, I just wanted to ask to Dennis's excellent point about the students, that's easy, we have them, but the alumni, Will we be doing more than just focus groups? Alumni could be very tricky.
Yeah,
Like,
the
will there be
alumni, we're gonna have to
survey?
work on our plan for how we do that.
Okay.
And we'll work with the counseling department because
Uh-huh.
they often keep track of kids
Great.
or graduates.
And then just furthering on to that too, thinking about how we are community-based schools and some of our conversations also about reasons that certain students might leave the district or not join the district. I wonder if we might open it up broadly to the community as well, so that there's just a chance for people to weigh in a survey or something, whether they're empty nesters, whether they have preschool kids, just to gather that kind of intel about what they think makes a successful school, why they would or wouldn't want to send their kids.
Have to think about how we could accomplish that. That could be a significant challenge, but I won't rule it out.
Okay.
We'll think about how we can expand that.
Thank you.
Other questions or board feedback? I do have one question just as we develop this, and I think it's a good thing to have something that's more simple and high level, but then the question is, if this really is driving everything that we are doing ultimately, how do we, in say year 2, some new circumstance comes up or something really drastically changes that we believe we probably should be taking some actions on, what would be the intent then of how we could kind of
So
modify?
that's built into the process, is that one of the things we said is regular monitoring and adjustments as necessary. Because it cannot be flat.
Right.
That's where strategic plans in schools die, is they get created, they get put into these giant binders, and then they sit on a shelf. And it's so complex and they're 150 pages long. But we need to be simple and clear in what our tasks are that are measurable. I mean, that's ultimately where we need to be.
Okay,
It
and
needs to be about continuous improvement, right? So
Correct,
Thinking about
yeah.
continuous improvement cycles, and I think in addition to plans sitting on shelves, another certain death for strategic plans is when there isn't alignment in the other types of plans, like school improvement plans and thinking about department improvement plans. So you have to think about all areas of the work and aligning back to that.
Okay, and then on the KPI subject, when would that process happen and how would that work? Would that be after it's developed and then the administration proposes various metrics or ways that we would plan to measure?
I think they're actually in the development process. We
okay.
should be able to identify some of those. But
Okay, and then is the ongoing process then, say quarterly or whenever we would be reviewing how we're doing, or what's your plan? for
yeah,
that?
my feeling is quarterly is a little too frequent.
Okay.
Because when you think about the flow of a school year, it's not a whole lot of time. I would think a twice a year update and
Okay.
reflection would be helpful.
And then would that also have some kind of measures to kind of say, here's how we're doing and show the
Yeah.
progress? Okay, great. Are there other board questions? Yes.
Yeah, while we're going down this KPI part, I guess, is there any thought of is the KPI just a check mark of yes, we've accomplished this, or no, we haven't? Or will there be like a stretch goal of what does average look like and what does excellence look like?
I
And
don't-
What does,
I don't know the answer yet because we
Okay.
haven't developed them, but I would imagine that there'd be a range of KPIs that we look at.
okay, perfect.
Great. Other board questions? Okay, no questions. Thank you for this process and we'll look forward to getting the update.
And we will get to work.
Thank you. We are moving on now to the first reading and discussion of the board master agenda for February 26th through August 2026. Dr. Byrne.
So through lots of conversation at this table over the last 6 months, there have been ideas of presentations that the board was interested in hearing. We've mentioned some of them at the table. So what we're really looking at is laying out a bunch of different presentations. So in March on the 24th, we have the elementary schools update presentation that we've talked about at the table, and the board seemed very receptive to doing the different level presentations. I will say that there are a few things in here that may move, like I am not sure we will be ready on March 24th for the library collection development policy. We are still working on that in the policy committee. But in terms of the presentations, I do think we'll be ready with the elementary schools update. Looking in April, the draft educational specifications for Middlesex Middle School and the Middlesex Middle School update. On May 12th, the special education update. On May 26th, and the cadence of some of these items came from what's been done in the past, the school calendar conversations. Then some policies that we anticipate being updated. On June 9th, the superintendent's award recipients, the Barbara Harrington Fund Awards, the internship presentation, and then further action on the 27-28 school district calendar. On June 23rd, I talked about me delivering a presentation, an end of year review and a review of the district goals and a reflection on the district goals. And then we'll be right back at the master agenda from August to February. July 27th is the board retreat. The reason that July 28th is blank because I believe that we may have some strategic plan discussions to have at that night, but we weren't there yet. And then knowing where August typically is, the summer recap presentation that was very well received this year, that would enable us to share as an administrative team all of the work that's occurred in the school district over the summer months.
Can I, we skipped over March 11th, so that's the K through 3 literacy update.
Oh,
Is
yes,
that
I'm sorry.
Still,
March 11th is the K-3 literacy update.
okay.
We were just working on that today.
And then the board retreat,
Yeah.
correct, on the 17th. I do have a question on the retreat, the July 27th. Typically, in the past, we had kind of collapsed the retreat with the July board meeting
Okay,
so that we just have one kind of session where we also have that agenda, I believe, just for people's time. I think that
we
works
could
pretty well.
certainly, yeah, that's easy enough to do.
Well, I mean,
Or,
for several years, the retreat has just been a very long meeting that sort of was a catch-all for all the things that we hadn't caught up on.
just once?
Yeah, because we're so behind the budgets.
I thought we did it last year and the year before that too, but, okay.
So
Maybe,
there's certainly a way to do it effectively where you can have a robust, good, strong retreat that isn't a long meeting, which we definitely all discussed that day. And then convening a meeting at that time to do the pieces that we need to do. So
Okay,
there's certainly,
Alright.
to me, it's certain, because if much of the focus is on the strategic plan, that's a part of the retreat as well. So
okay.
to me, I think it makes sense and is easy enough for us to modify.
All right, it depends on the agenda and how much we need to cover. So,
Mhm.
okay. Are there questions on the master agenda? Yes, Joanna?
So as we've worked on governance and gotten out of the weeds, but there might still be things on the old master agenda that were maybe too in the weeds, but now we'll touch on a bigger, like, so if I want to learn about teaming, can I request ahead of time before the middle school presentation that teaming is included in that presentation? Or
Do that.
whatever okay.
Just, it would be helpful if you could send that soon so that we could give that guidance to the middle school team.
Thank you. Katie?
I also wanted to ask about how we might think about and track future committee work and if there might be potential for a master agenda for committees. I know that a lot of times it can feel a bit surprising as to like what the topic is for the month and can also be a little challenging sometimes to get something on an agenda. So it might be nice if we were able to do a bit of planning for topics that we would like to see occur within the next year.
I think that would be a terrific topic that is part of the board retreat, committees as a whole,
So that's
committee planning,
great,
committee.
except it doesn't happen until next school year.
Um,
I mean, like, we wouldn't be able to implement anything. So, you know,
well, when we think about the number of committee meetings left in this school year we could try and figure out how to do that.
well,
Between
perhaps
now
in
and
the,
then,
perhaps
but-
in the meantime, we could just, as a board, agree that if there are burning topics on our minds, that we'll share them with each other to try to get them on the remaining agendas, and then we'll formalize the process at the retreat.
I think that would be great.
Great.
Other board comments? Okay, thank you. Thanks for the master agenda and thank you for your feedback.
And we'll make those modifications based on that.
Great. Okay, and we'll move on to consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Dennis, seconded by Joanna. I'm just going to read through the consent agenda. We have the approval of minutes, acceptance of contemplated gift for middle school quiz bowl buzzers, and the personnel report. Is there discussion on, anyone want to discussion anything on the consent agenda? Dennis?
Just one point is on the personnel report is Heather Shea, who was a former Board of Ed member. And I think an integral part of the back office staff is retiring, and just want to thank her for the years of service that she's dedicated to the Darien Public Schools.
Thank you. And I would also like to congratulate the Middlesex Middle School Quiz Bowl team on their ongoing feats and upcoming competitions. And thank you for the gift of the Quiz Bowl buzzers. Are there other comments or discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Wait,
I think there's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Dave.
I was just gonna second Dennis's comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the consent agenda? That is unanimous. May I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry. We have public comment next. Is there any?
No members of the public.
No members?
Follow-up action item.
Oh, and the follow-up action items would be to add potentially, or for board members to give any feedback on subcommittee topic items that they might be interested in, and then we can discuss that at the upcoming board retreat with the intent of starting to discuss some kind of a master agenda for subcommittees. Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Joanna, seconded by Dennis. All in favor? That's unanimous.